Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We're going to take on a Trophy Angler TF2800 today. This is another one I found as part of a lot sale. It's in very good condition, but it turns very slow. And it seems like it's probably suffering from lack of lubrication. We're going to find out. We'll take it apart. We'll see what's going on under here. We'll look at it mechanically. It appears to be a nice reel. We'll see as we open it up. And I'll show you how to take it apart, service it, and put it back together again, and see if we can't make this work a little bit smoother. We're going to start by taking the handle off. This one has a handle cap on it, and it has a Phillips head drive screw that pulls that through. So we're going to go ahead and take that Phillips head. And a couple of things, if this is the first time you're viewing my videos, you'll notice I'm wearing a protective glove on my left hand. I do that just to keep contaminants away and off of the hands as best I can. I've explained in the past I don't wear one of them on my right hand because it's awkward for me to grab the small pieces and parts with that. But I encourage you to go ahead and take some protection against that stuff if you can. Nice handle here. This is a collapsing handle, and I'm going to just go ahead and put a little drop of oil on that pivot point there, just so we can make sure that it functions easily. And then I'm going to put that in the other thing you're noticing. It's a parts bucket. I keep that there for my tray. So this says it's got 2 ball bearings in it. It's a nice quality reel. It looks like a plastic or a graphite case. And you can generally tell the quality of reels by some of the componentry. This one has a bump guard on it, which is always a plus in terms of the reels themselves. It keeps the case from shattering if it slams up against a pier or a post or something. So I'm going to take that bump guard off, and that's going to give us access now to the gear side plate. And one of the things I do when I go to take reels off is I look to see if the plate ends here or if the plate goes in under the rotor. If the plate goes in under the rotor, then you can't remove this side plate without taking the rotor off first. In this case, that doesn't need to be done, so we're just going to go right down to the gear case and see if we can confirm my suspicions that this is just a very dry reel suffering from lack of lubrication. This reel doesn't look used, yet it was on a vendor's table at a local flea market for a couple of bucks, so I decided to take it on. And the vendor just told me, you know, it's tight, it probably needs lube. Well, of course, I can tell you anything to send the reel. We don't know if there's broken pieces and parts in here or what, but for the cost, like I said, like I like to say, if all doesn't go well, if there is something broken in here, then it's just the price of tuition to learn a little bit more about fishing reels. So there was 3 side plate screws in there, and we should be able to take that side plate off now, and we can. And we can see this thing is bone dry. Whatever lubrication was in there has evaporated. Looks like we got a little bit of shellacking going on here on the gear, and other than that, I think if we just wind up lubricating this reel, we'll do fine. Looks like a classic design. Main gear, crosswind gear, cross block, which holds the shaft, and just a flip switch here for the anti-reverse dog toggle. So let's go ahead and take this spool off, because I'm going to want to service that as well. You don't have to take the spool off to disassemble the reel, but at this point it's something that's easier to be done when it's on the reel before we detach. So I'm going to just unwind that. Now I'm going to come down here to the crosswind block, take off the set screw, and that'll enable me to pull the spool shaft through. And looks like we're just going to give this one some nice general lubrication and oil, and that should put it back together. So I'm noticing on the side plate as we took this off that we have a plastic bushing here. So this is a medium to low price range reel as opposed to a higher price reel. Yeah, if this was a higher cost reel, this bushing would at a minimum be a brass bushing, and in the higher level from that would be a bearing, but we don't have those here. Okay, so I took that off. If you hold the crosswind block now, you can pull the spool shaft through. And again, all of these go into my parts bucket so that I know where to find them later. Taking off the crosswind block. And now we can remove the main gear. Should be able to remove the main gear. There you go. Another plastic bushing on this side. Lots of dried grease underneath, and this is the crosswind block, and dry as can be as well. So tells you a little bit about why this reel is as sluggish as it is. And then we'll come over here and we'll try and take this one off as well while we're at it. And I keep an assortment of wrenches in my tray here because I'm never quite sure which wrench it's going to be. In this case, it looks like it's going to be a 10mm wrench. So just take just a moment to find that one. And I like to take these apart just to find out how they're made. I'm just, I guess, a tinkerer by nature. And sometimes just learning about the reel is enough. I'm going to go in with a socket here, I think, because there you go. That little the little counterweight there is impeding the. And then this socket is actually showing me that the crosswind, the nut that holds the rotor on is actually a reverse threaded nut. To loosen it, you go to the right as opposed to the left. Then we should be able to pull that off. And here's your bearing and a traditional anti-reverse dog that's triggered by the lever underneath here. That'll open that up, and it looks like we just need to oil that bearing, which we'll go ahead and do. And then I'm going to put some oil on that the anti-reverse dog as well. Once that's done, we're just going to check to make sure that the spool underneath is clean, which it is. And we're going to just go ahead and put that right back on there. A little piece that fell out is the lock, so we'll go put that back on. Press that in, and then we can grab that nut. Now, remembering that it went reverse thread, when we go to reinstall, instead of turning to the right, we're going to turn counterclockwise to the left. And I'm going to put my ratchet on there to complete the tightening of this. That's all that's needed up top. That works smooth now. That's a nice sign. We're going to come underneath here now and lubricate the pinion gear. We're just going to grab some blue grease. I use a Penn Reels precision reel grease. I would encourage you to use greases designed for fishing reels. They have the right viscosity and the right ability to eliminate breakdown underwater and salt conditions. So go ahead and find a reel grease. It doesn't have to be Penn. It just happens to be that I use the Penn grease, but any reel manufacturer or third-party manufacturer who makes the grease specifically for fishing reels would be fine. That bushing I put back in has ears on it. There's an inset in the case where those reels need to, those tabs need to be seated. Make sure that you do that when you reinstall, otherwise the case will ride proud and you won't be able to close the case when you do that. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm greasing the teeth on these, but I'm also checking the teeth on these to make sure that all of the teeth are where they need to be and that there's no broken ones or bent ones or particularly worn ones. I'm going to come over here and put some reel grease on the back of the crosswind gear. That'll go in next. And then on this crosswind gear there's a little stud, and that stud is what this crosswind block rides on, and the crosswind block enables the spool shaft to go up and down. So we want to make sure we get some grease into that channel there and a little bit on the back. So this is going to make the reel a whole lot more slippery, if that's the right term for this. than it was before. And the last piece I'll do over there is put a little bit of grease that's going to sit into the other bushing. Once that's done, I can reinstall the main gear. I want to make sure everything gets seated there. And then I can go ahead and put the shaft back on. And before I put the shaft back on, I'm just going to put a little bit of that blue grease on this one as well. Now the shaft has a D shape to it on the back. It can only fit in a cross line block the one way. So make sure that as you put that in, you just work to install that properly. It's only going to let you go into one way. So you just have to play with it, and you know you're in when you see the hole for the set screw below. Now this is the advantage of having a parts tray. You can just simply look in the parts tray, find the set screw that goes in that crosswind block, and then you can get that replaced relatively easily, as opposed to leaving that on your work table and then trying to find it somewhere. So it looks like the risk I took here is worth the reward. Dry reel. That's the outcome of this one, and yeah, it's spinning a whole lot nicer already. Just looking to seat that main gear. We're not quite. There we go. Now we're set. Okay. There we go. All right. Very good. All right. So we're going to go ahead and put this back together. This one has the tabs in it too on the bushing, so you want to make sure you're in that seat. Once you do that, you can put the side plate back on. Put the 3 side plate screws that you've conveniently kept in your parts tray. Put those back in. Now some manufacturers change and have different side plate screws for, there we go, different side plate screw lengths or threads on them. So when you're taking these out, make sure you're looking and that you're sure that all of these are the same. If they're different, you want to make certain that you go ahead and note the places where a different screw came out of. Usually that different screw comes out from there's usually a screw underneath the bump guard, and that one, because the bump guard takes up so much space, is usually a shorter screw. Sometimes it's a machine screw. You just need to make note of that so that when you go to reinstall, you've got it set properly. And a tough time to get some oil on that screwdriver there, and it's slipping in my hand. So I'll just go ahead and tighten that last one down with another screwdriver. Okay, with that we can put the bump guard back on. The bump guard has the last screw that's in my bin. Now that's a shorter one, so you would have noticed that when you were taking that out if you weren't paying attention. So one of the things I like to encourage folks to do as well with these reels is take pictures along the way. Particularly if you've never worked on a reel before, the pictures along the way will give you an indication of the sequence that you took the pieces and parts out in, and the where they came from. So if you had any questions or doubt in your mind when you were going to reinstall, you could go back to your digital camera or your phone, and you can just kind of look at that and see what that was all about. Okay, so we're just going to reinstall the handle now, and this was set up as right. Oh yeah, this works a whole lot nicer and smoother now. On the lower end of the price points, again, this is a Trophy Angler TF2800, so it's between a 20 and a 30 size reel. Its purpose would be lakes and streams, maybe shallow inlets and bays, fish probably up to about 10 pounds maybe. Certainly a nice little reel. Probably I would put it in the beginner or the entry level classification. Again, you saw the bushings on the inside as opposed to maybe even brass bushings or bearings. So technologically, it's It's not on the upper scale of design or manufacturer, but it's going to do what it's intended to do, which is help somebody go catch some fish. All right, last thing we're going to do is look at the drags. This reel again looks pretty clean, so I'm not too worried about that. The drags are held in by a little clip. It's a spring clip, so I always keep a finger on that clip when I remove. I want it shooting around somewhere. Take that clip out right into the parts bucket, and then we're going to take these drag washers out, and the easiest way to do that is just invert. Sometimes you can just pop them out like that. In this case I can't, so I'll just pull them out with my little pick that's been around with me forever. Some folks ask me where you can buy this pick. Actually, this pick was, I believe it was part of maybe a $2 multi-tool set of change the tip kind of things, because it has a thread on it, and this has served me well for years. It's amazing how that can work like that. Okay, so we're down to it. This is the sequence that they came out on. This is the sequence they will go back in. Just want to clean the inside of that a little bit. This is it's well lubed, so we don't need to do anything with that. I'm going to go ahead and put these back then. These parts are clean. There's some corrosion on that, but it's not raised or anything. It just seems to be some discoloration there. Put those back in. Grab that spring clip. There's a groove that's sitting in the spool, and again, that's fairly common across almost all top drag spinning reels. Is that it's got some kind of a device that holds this in on those grooves. You just want to make sure you're in on them. In this case, I'm actually riding below the groove, so I want to get it in. There we go. And we'll just put that last piece in. And again, this is a spring, so keep yourself aware of that as you're doing this. I'm going to throw that back on, line it up, put the drag knob back on. One little final piece of lubrication. I'm just going to drop a shut oil on both sides of the valve. Spin it. Oh yeah, we got a nice spinning reel now. Again, it's not a 10 ball bearing reel. It's got a single ball bearing sitting in the middle there, which is okay. And for the purposes, like I said, light river, stream, lake, fish up to 10 pounds. It's got a nice product for somebody who's interested in fishing in those ranges. So with that, I'm going to thank you for watching the video. If you like it, please indicate that on YouTube. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And again, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing you good fishing.